Hello, friends. Welcome to Lead to Gold, the podcast where we share stories of growth and wellness. I feel like it's weird to introduce myself at the beginning of every episode, but we're going to go for it today. Hi, I'm Erin. I am currently a high school English teacher, but I like talking about lots of other different things. So I won't really be talking about teaching that much. Definitely not today. Maybe a little bit. We'll see. So, hey, I'm glad you're here. Welcome in. Today, I wanted to have a little one-on-one discussion about the new year. I am recording this a couple days before the start of 2023, and I feel like even though I got a full 2-week little holiday because of my job, I haven't really spent that much time focusing on what's coming. So I want to do that today. And more importantly, I want to do it with you. So really, really glad you're here. We'll strap in. I've got my coffee. My cat was just sitting on my lap. She has since moved, but make yourself comfy. Let's talk about what we are really looking forward to. I want to take this time to just drop in and really actually start thinking about it. So even if you are listening to this, the second day of 2023 when this episode comes out, or even way later, it really doesn't matter, but I wanted to do this with someone. So here we go. The main thing that I am calling in for 2023 is presence. I want to kind of step away from the whole New Year's resolution thing. I think a lot of people have been stepping away from that in the past 2 years, and I am just the same. I don't love making a list of all of these things that I'm going to do, all of these ways that my life is going to improve. And I'm not shitting on anybody that wants to make a New Year's resolution list by any means. I think it works really well for some people. It has worked for me in the past, but I think what most commonly happens with anyone is that we find that in a couple weeks, maybe if you're lucky in a month or so, the resolutions fall flat and we give up on them. So instead of trying to come up with a bunch of different things, presence is what I'm focusing on. Not presents like Christmas presents, but presence. Being more aware of what's going on around me, just being tuned into my body in that moment and how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking about, or rather, what should I maybe not be thinking about or feeling instead. I'll get into all of that in a few minutes. But before I get into that, though, I do want to talk a little bit about the last year that I've had, maybe even a little bit before that. But if you have been following Lead to Gold on Instagram, you know that I took about 6 months off of social media altogether. I got rid of my personal Instagram as well, but 6 months I think is a decently long time to be away. And I've taken tons of social media breaks before. Social media is extremely overwhelming for me, and after a while, I just start to realize that I'm spending way too much time on it, and it is easier for me to just deactivate the account altogether than just not go on it. Because if it's on my phone, I'm going to go on it. Hate to say it, but that's the way it is. Social media is an addiction, but that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, I was off for 6 months, and I remember deactivating it right around the end of the school year. So I was really stressed out anyway. I was trying to get all the kids' grades looking good, and I just didn't have the space in my life to also be constantly looking at a For You page, or I don't know why I can't remember the name of whatever Instagram's front page is. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying. didn't have the time for it. And frankly, it was just causing me more stress. So I got off, and that was probably May of 2022. In the meantime, school ended and I went on a 2-week trip to Europe with my partner. I haven't left the country since 2019, and it was 2022. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a Sag moon. I don't know if you all are into astrology out there, but it's fun. If you're an astrology person, you know what I'm talking about. Sag moons, we got to travel. We got to get out there. So I finally was able to do that. And it was so funny because initially on the social media break, I was like, all right, I'm going to just pause this for a couple weeks. I'm going to let school end. And then when we go on our trip, I'll get it back so I can post my photos, you know? But we get over there and I was like, you know what? I really don't feel like it. It's not something that's going to bring any joy to my life. It's not something that I really actually want to flaunt. I would rather, and I will say for the first time probably since I've been on social media, which was high school, I did not have any desire to share that trip with anybody but my partner, which felt really good. I was really happy about that. Anyway, I thought, okay, maybe once we get home, I'll just reinstall it because I don't have anything to do. I'm on break for 2 months. But even then, I didn't want to do it. And from there on, I just kind of rolled with it. I was like, okay, great. So I spent every summer day by the pool. Well, just about. I read a bunch of new books and I gardened, and it was awesome. So 2022 in all was pretty slow. I wouldn't say it was a remarkably good year or bad year. It was pretty just steady, run-of-the-mill year. It was something that I would like to reflect on 2022 mainly as the year that things started feeling a little bit normal again post-COVID. It was the year that students could take their masks off and, you know, just things were more normal at the schoolhouse. It was more lively. It felt like I was actually working in a high school rather than in like a sterile, weird, I can't think of any words to describe what teaching hybrid was like. That's again a conversation for another day probably, but it was wild. So having things opening up, being more social and almost chaotic, how I like it. Aries sun, if you will. I like things a little chaotic. I like being busy. It was starting to feel like life before COVID, which was nice. Loved it. And I just rolled with it. So as much as 2022 was a pretty solid year, there were a lot of things that I was trying to work on that I got so endlessly frustrated with because I felt like no matter what I did, no matter how I tried to do it, I could not keep a steady routine. And it was really messing with me a lot. It's been an issue probably since COVID. I was still in college when COVID started, and I was on the tail end of my student teaching and living with friends, living with my partner in a big house. And it was just like chaos, but also not, because then we suddenly couldn't do anything and we were all stuck in a house together. Good times, but my God, I couldn't wake up until noon. I just felt like I slept all day and I had no routine whatsoever. It was just wild. I'm sure a lot of you can relate if you happen to have a unsteady job situation at the time. I suddenly went from being like, oh, I'm going to substitute all summer to having no job because it was canceled. School's canceled. It was wild. Anyway, I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to establish a routine. And that remained a problem until 2022. It still is something I'm working on. But one thing that eventually helped, I tried all these different methods. I hate to say it, I subscribed to some online planner types of things, some checklist types of things that were not free, but I was like, I am desperate. I need to find a way to achieve my goals because all I feel like I'm doing is going to work and then coming home and sleeping, and I'm tired of it. So what I ended up doing, and it came out of nowhere, I was in a sort of group chat with some friends, and it was really fun. We would send voice messages to each other every day and you listen back to them. One of them was saying, hey, I'm doing a 75 soft. Now, I will be honest with you, I still have not even looked up what a 75 soft actually is, but that's what she called it. And she said it's basically a way for us to all establish goals that we want to reach, do them for 75 days, and hold each other accountable. So we made a Google sheet, like a spreadsheet. Everybody put their goals in there. And then there were check boxes for every day between, those 75 days. I think we started in August and it ended in October. So although a lot of us, I think, fell off and did not go all the way through the 75 days, or at least we didn't mark them, it was something that for some reason worked for me as a daily reminder of, okay, I want to not hit snooze. That was my biggest one. I still work on that and I've fallen back a little bit. Not hit snooze, wake right up, drink some water, go to the bathroom sink, do my morning routine. Because again, I'll be honest, I don't always do everything in my morning routine. Sometimes I skip. Sometimes I forget to put on deodorant. We're all human. So I literally made a sticky note with all of my morning routine and nightly routine things, and I stuck them on my bathroom mirror, and actually helped a lot. So what else was on there? I went to the gym. I was like, I want to actually go to the gym 5 times a week. I was able to do that at least better, but not to get into all of the details. You get the idea. The way that really helped me was because I was being held accountable and I was allowed to mess up. Part of the thing that was really nice about doing this with somebody else, which I think was the really big game changer, and not just one other person, but several other people, was that yes, they were seeing what I was checking off, but I was also able to see that they never checked every single thing off of their list. Never. And for somebody like me who is a perfectionist and has mild OCD, I cannot figure that out in my brain by myself that like, oh, you're allowed to not do everything perfectly. In my brain, it's either you do it all or you do nothing. So being able to see, oh, okay, they never checked every single thing off of their list. And I didn't either. And it was okay. The bigger important piece of it was that I was trying and that I was coming back to it every day. Some days were better than others, but nonetheless, we got through it. And slowly, steadily, those routines actually got built. It wasn't about the list anymore. It was about just practicing them in day to day. So the things that got really good, or the things that got a lot better that I was frustrated about not doing before, was making meals for myself. That was a big one. A lot of times I would get in the habit of just not eating breakfast, rushing my ass out the door to go to work, and then obviously being starving. Sometimes I wouldn't pack lunch, so I would have to go run over to the Harris Teeter that's nearby and grab lunch and then have 5 minutes or less to eat it, or not any time to eat it at all. Sometimes I would, I was spending too much money going out to eat, things like that. So one of my bigger goals was, all right, I'm going to start actually meal prepping. I'm going to make overnight oats. I'll make 5 of them, so I have breakfast every day of the week, and make a big meal on Sunday nights that I can pack up for lunches. And I did that. And that is one thing. That's probably the biggest thing of 2022 that has changed, that I'm super, super proud of. Even though it wasn't a New Year's resolution by any means, it was something that I wanted to work on. And through accountability, through doing it with friends, I was able to actually achieve it. Now, were there things that did not get achieved, or at least not to the caliber that I hoped they would? Absolutely. I think there always are. Those things for me are fitness. I didn't go to the gym as much as I wanted to, but I'm hoping that somewhere in the new year I can build that routine back up and be a little bit more consistent rather than just deciding that I'm tired and I don't really feel like it. You know, it's the typical thing. Another one is not procrastinating. I really don't like having to take work home. So when I have to, sometimes I just don't do it, which is really bad, but I'm going to work on that this year. And above and beyond all of those are just like little, we're working on it. We'll get better. Definitely still have some goals attached, but I'm not, too worried. I think I'll get there. The biggest one, and this feels like almost an alarm bell in my head because it is so important to me, is genuinely being a better partner, friend, person in general through communication, right? I want to actually talk to some people about this in the future on this podcast, just the idea of healthy communication. But in short, I will say that it is something that I did not really learn as a kid. Not to say that I was a horrible communicator, but when I look back, I didn't know how to do that. And I didn't know how to be honest about what I was feeling. I didn't know how to be upfront. I'm still very, very bad at confrontation and standing up for myself and boundaries even. I'm horrible with it. Better communication has kind of been a life path or maybe even life struggle for me. It's something that I feel like I am meant to work on in this lifetime. So with that being said, things have gotten much better since I was a kid, but I still come up on rough edges all the time. Something that I think will help with that, the thing that I'm missing, the piece that I'm missing, is presence that I mentioned at the beginning. But that's something I've been trying to work on for the absolute longest. I go in and out of it. If it's quiet and calm when I'm alone, it's really easy for me to drop in and actually feel what's going on inside my body. Like, what am I genuinely feeling physically, mentally, emotionally? And I don't know if that term is super esoteric. I don't love using the term to drop into my body because I think that can be really confusing for a lot of people. But when I say that, I just mean actually feeling your body. When I first started meditating, when I first started getting more into these spiritual avenues and learning about, like what dropping in is, I didn't realize that I had never in my life felt my body. I have never taken the time to concentrate on the tips of my fingers and notice that there's energy there. I had never taken the time to sit still and figure out where there is discomfort in your body. In my first episode of Led to Gold, the first podcast episode, I talked just a little bit about this. I was in a spiritual women's group of sorts, and that's where I first learned about this, and my mind was blown. I did not know that I could ever tune in that much. Anyway, it's great. You should try it sometime. It's really easy for me to do that when I'm alone. When it's calm, there's nothing going on. Maybe I'm already meditating. Maybe I'm just sitting alone at my house and I had a rough day and I recognize that I need to take a second and take stock of what's going on. But it's really, really, really hard to do that the second that anybody else is in the room. If there's any noise, let alone if I'm in public. I mean, good Lord, I don't know how to do that. But the main thing that I want to work on this year is being able to take stock of what's going on, no matter where I am. Taking stock for me feels like asking myself questions. How do I feel right now? Mentally, physically, emotionally, and actually identifying a sensation. I learned this from a great teacher, Madeline Moon. You should definitely go follow her on social media and or listen to her podcast, Mind Body Musings. But I learned that from her, where when you're asking yourself these questions, how do you feel physically? And if I do that for myself right now, how do I feel physically? Pretty neutral. It takes a second sometimes. I feel a little bit disheveled. I feel a little bit stuffed up. Don't know what's going on there, but I guess it's warm out and my nose is being a little annoying. Emotionally, I feel, again, kind of neutral, but also kind of excited, kind of scattered. I feel like I didn't get enough alone time on this break. And as much as I love being able to see a bunch of old friends that are home for the holidays and catching up, it's taken a little bit of a toll on me. Mentally, right now, doing fabulous. The mind is quiet and I'm just feeling really positive. It's as simple as that, and if I really was sitting here meditating, it would probably be a little bit easier to conjure up those feelings. But again, the second I'm with anyone else, even just my partner, it becomes nearly impossible to do this drop in, at least for me. I know that there are tons of people out there who have mastered presence, but I am not one of them. I can align a lot of times with how I feel, but rather than stopping, identifying, saying, I had a hard day and I am frustrated, I can't really do that. It's more like I just start complaining about that annoying thing that happened, or I use a tone of voice that shows my frustration but doesn't really pinpoint why it's there. So I can align with how I feel, but I can't slow down enough to actually identify next steps until I'm alone again. When you come up with like really good comebacks after an argument and you're like, shit, I should have said that. It doesn't even have to be an argument, but a conversation that you had with somebody and you're like, shit, why didn't I say that thing that I just thought about? It's a lot like that. So I could be in a stressful moment or in a moment where I'm not aligned, or maybe I am, but I'm just not communicating the way that I could be. That would be a lot more helpful for the person that I'm with. And later on, I recognize what I could have said or how I could have acted instead. And it probably would have made the situation a lot less uncomfy, or, I'll use an example. I'm a very, very fiery person. Sometimes I get a little bit hyperactive and I don't want to say mean, but maybe even a little bit mean. I use a tone of voice that I don't recognize that I'm using, and it doesn't feel threatening to me, but it definitely can feel threatening to the other person. And my partner has told me this several times, that like, hey, you're being a little bit mean right now. You're being a little dramatic. Why don't we tone it down? And I always feel so bad after the fact. I'm like, oh my God, I was just playing around, man. I was just having a good time over here, stressing out and yelling, not at him, but just like yelling because it feels good. And I'm like, damn, I really could have handled that better. So anyway, that's kind of the situation that I'm talking about when I say I can't slow down enough to figure out what I need or how I could better identify what's going on within. It's annoying because sometimes it's too late. Sometimes you get through the conversation, you say things you don't mean to, or you act a certain way that you don't mean to, and it's all because you weren't super present. So how do we fix this? How do we overcome this? Of course, I don't have the answer because I'm presenting it to you right now. This is the thing that I want to work on. So I don't have the answer, but I do have some ideas. And if you are going through the same sort of thing, or even just in listening to me talk about it, you're like, yeah, presence is cool. I should try to work on that for myself. Something that I think could work for me, just paying attention to what has worked in the past, is bringing this into a 75 soft type of structure. So in the past, when I have journaled about problems that I'm experiencing, things that I want to be better at, which, trust me, I have journaled and written out probably 10 to 15 different routine schedules. At 7 a.m., I'm going to wake up. At 7:30, I'm going to drink my coffee and do my daily journal. At 8 a.m., I will leave the house. You get the idea. That doesn't work for me. I have tried it enough times now to know that that is just not going to work for my brain. Maybe it works for yours. And if it does, highly recommend trying that out. But for my specific goals and for practicing presence, I think something that will help me is putting this in that 75 soft format. Now, again, I haven't looked too much into what that looks like for other people who have done it. I will link some stuff in the show notes just to get you started if you're interested in trying out this sort of spreadsheet, trying out this list of goals. And again, it's just as simple as marking 75 days, putting that on a sort of calendar, or just in our case, it was one box for August 1st, one box for August 2nd, and it just keeps going until the 75 days are over. For me, and in this line of goals, instead of putting in goals like don't hit snooze, do my morning routine, instead I want to try to put in things like listening to my partner authentically, or something to that effect. Reflecting before reacting. Reflecting before responding. Intentionally listening to what a student is telling me and responding accordingly. If I can do those kinds of things every single day and really truly say, yes, I authentically listened. I gave them my full attention. I paused and recognized how I felt before responding. If I can honestly say that I did those things, then I can check off that item list. And it may work, it may not, but that I think is what I want to try to do to take stock of my presence. Am I really truly being present? Can I honestly say that I gave my partner his full attention, or my full attention, when he had a bad day at work, needed to complain? Did I, instead of complaining, identify I'm feeling frustrated? That's another thing I want to talk about, and I might make another longer podcast about this someday, but yet another lesson that I got from Madeline Moon, although it's not directly her invention, is stages of communication. So getting a little bit more back into that. Stages of communication, I think, are so helpful, especially in this conjunction with being present. A lot of people, according to the 3 stages, there's 3 stages. I'll get into the first 2 for right now. The first stage of communication is what most people use on a day-to-day basis when they're not being present. That looks something like, if I'm frustrated, this thing happened to me today and it pissed me off because XYZ, and this person sucks because they did XYZ to me and it's all their fault and I'm just so frustrated and et cetera, et cetera. I'm taking it out on the person. I'm just venting. I'm not being present. I could probably give better examples, but that's what immediately comes to mind, is just flailing around with your emotions and not thinking about them, just expelling them. Stage 2 is almost what I would consider like therapy talk. It's something that I think a lot of therapists try to teach their clients. It looks a lot more like, when you do XYZ, it makes me feel frustrated. Next time, I would appreciate if instead of doing XYZ, you would do something more like ABC. And it doesn't even have to be directed toward a person. It can just be as simple as, right now, I feel really frustrated, and right now, I really need da-da-da to make me feel better. That's stage 2. And stage 3 goes into some more kind of relationship dynamic stuff, so I'm not going to get into that today, but it is something that I am trying to practice more, and I do think that it's a game changer. It's so helpful to, rather than immediately react, say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. I have identified my feeling. Now here's what I need. So more of that in 2023. Okay. And another thing that I will be making a full podcast episode about this, but just while it's on my mind, we also need to be better about being on the receiving end of that sort of stage 2 communication. Again, without getting too much into it, I don't know that we are as practiced in receiving that from somebody than we are in telling that to somebody. I am a lot more comfortable saying, hey, I feel mad and here's what I need. I'm a lot more comfortable doing that than being the person who's hearing somebody say, I am mad, here's what I need from you right now. Because we still sometimes take that initial I am mad, I am frustrated as an attack. So more on that another time, but just something to think about. If somebody comes to you with stage 2 communication and they are saying, this is what I need from you, or this is just what I need in general, they are being so vulnerable and so honest in doing that, and you should be very proud of them. That's all I'm going to say. So the 75 soft, back to that before we wrap up for today. Some goals that I have lined up in that I already expressed, but I will be blogging about this in my website. So I won't guarantee that it's going to come out on January 2nd, but if you are subscribed to Led to Gold, I will send an email when it comes out. If you're following me on Instagram, again, I will send a little something in the stories or in a post that will tell you when it's coming out. So really excited for that. And let's do this together. If anybody's interested, I am dead serious. If anybody is interested in joining me on the 75 soft journey, the only thing is we kind of have to keep it on similar dates, but we don't have to. You can make your own dates and set it at your own pace, as long as it's within similar times. Send me a message. You can email me or you can DM me on Instagram. Send me a message and I would love to include you in the spreadsheet. We'll do this together. We'll make our own goals and we will see how well we do with them. Totally would love to do that. Okay. So the last thing for this episode, I meant to mention this in the pilot episode, but something that I was toying around with doing is, and this is not sponsored by the way, is pulling a card from the game We're Not Really Strangers. I push this on all of my friends. I'm like, guys, if we're together in a group setting and we're not just like fully partying, but we're just chilling, we have to play this game. It doesn't always happen, but I had a little high school reunion the other day, and I truly have not seen most of these people since high school. It's been a while. We played this together, and it was amazing. I mean, I didn't expect anybody to actually want to do it. It's very vulnerable. If you don't know, if you're not familiar with the game, we're not really strangers. They are some very vulnerable cards with questions on them, or just little guideposts to help you get to know the person that you're with a little bit better. There's lots of expansion packs. The ones that I was interested in using for this show are mainly the healing edition, and I also have a forgiveness edition that I'm going to use today, because along with making resolutions and trying to come up with goals for yourself for the new year, I think comes sometimes with a lot of shame, a lot of feeling bad about how you have been acting or living your life. And if you are one of those people, if you tend to get down on yourself for not practicing these things sooner, I definitely do, whether I mean to or not. Forgiveness. Practice forgiveness. Please, please, please. Practice forgiveness. And one way that I thought we could do that is by pulling a forgiveness edition card, and let's just think about it together. So here we go. Oh, and this is like so, this is so on brand. This is so on point for today's episode. What's the hardest thing you've had to forgive yourself or someone else for? What's the hardest thing you've had to forgive yourself or someone else for? For me, I would say the misguided communication that I've experienced just throughout life. And this goes both ways. This is forgiving myself and forgiving someone else. I would like to say that I just didn't really learn healthy communication as a kid, as I mentioned at the start of this episode. And therefore, I have made a lot of mistakes. A lot. So I love that this was the question that we got. I want to take this as an opportunity to forgive myself for the ways that I have not been a great communicator in the past, and also forgive those who maybe didn't teach me the healthiest strategies or the things that I learned from others that made it harder for me to do it well. So I forgive them. I forgive myself. All is well. And 2023 is the door to making things right. I can't wait to see how it goes, and I hope to find little pockets in the episodes throughout to update you guys on how I'm feeling about this and things that I've learned. But again, stages of communication, we talked about that. I will also link Madeline Moon's podcast episode about the 3 stages of communication in the show notes. So if you're interested, I love her podcast. I think she does really incredible work. So we've got that. And we're going to work on presence. At least that's what I'm going to be working on. So whatever it may be for you, hold fast to it. Find a system that works for you. And if you ever want to chat about it, my DMs are open. Let's work on it together. I'm here for you. Always and forever. Okay. If you are liking the podcast so far, please feel free to leave a review in Apple or Spotify. I think the Spotify reviews are a little bit more complicated, but there is now a way to leave reviews in Spotify. It's at least just a rating. In Apple Music, I know you can leave a review, leave a rating, and actually comments and things like that. So wherever you're listening to this, if you want to take a second and leave a review, that would be so awesome. It helps people find the show. And that would just be a dream come true, honestly, if people found the show. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, I love you so much. I will see you in 2 weeks with a new episode. Not quite sure what it's going to be yet, but we have some guests lined up coming soon. It might be one of those. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I love you so much. Have a lovely day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.